Hey everyone, I'm finally delivering some crusade. JoyToy Sigismund review is one of those Warhammer reviews that's been over a year in coming. Actually, I wasn't really going to get Sigismund figure for two reasons. I'm not particularly interested in big name heroes unless they come with a fancy helmet. And second, I wasn't particularly keen on collecting Imperial Fists. But I was forced to deal with them because they had the first Mark III armor, they had the first Cataphractii armor, and the main reason I bought Sigismund was because the Imperial Fist had the first and the only Mark II. It is still the only Crusade pattern JoyToy has today. The figure's packaging is quite modest. I was really amused by the fact that the blister pack has a separate slot for a standard round stand. So it's not wrapped in anything at all. It's funny, I've never seen this on other figures. Why did they do it like that? Let's break down the visuals. This is a different type of armor, unlike anything I've encountered before. It could be compared to the Iron pattern, but it is noticeably different. Not only in visuals, but also in the figure's design, making Sigismund unique. The boots have an unusual square shape. And the shin and thigh armor appears to be independent parts, composed of rings encircling the legs. They overlap each other like in a Mark III or a Cataphractii. There are two rings on the shin, one on the knee, and a pair on the thigh. The lower part features ornaments in the shape of branches and leaves, and a green laurel wreath on the knee. Although it's a veteran's wreath, it likely denotes the Emperor's champion or captain status. The eagle head badge on the left knee is something strange to me, because it must be Raptor Imperialis or something like that. This award is listed as a veteran of Unification Wars, but he is not a Thunder Warrior. And the wiki says he was born and became a Marine during the Great Crusade, so I need some expert clarification here about it. The figure's knees are particularly interesting. They are probably the most unusual knees I've ever seen on a Space Marine. There's a white ribbon on the hips, no inscriptions, and nothing interesting at the back. All of this is hidden by the lower part of the tabard, with the word Templar. And the Templar itself has a couple of pockets at the back. A bolt pistol hangs from the holster, the running cross and a rewound grip. There's a slight issue with it. It's come loose from its mount and can't stay in place. I was making a small leg fix and it fell out during the process. The only position it can be properly secured in is with the barrel facing up, but in the original it should be facing down. On the chest we can see a tabard secured by a belt on the outside of the armor, with the Maltese cross, as well as medallion suspended by a chain. Unfortunately, the tabard obscures the torso, so we can't see the armor. On the arm is nothing but Mark II knight-looking armor, molecular stats along the shoulder pad, and in the center it's the most beautiful Imperial Fists emblem I've ever seen, in black with the gold trim. On the back there's a backpack with a beautiful geometric design, which we'll examine separately. The right pauldron is nothing but improved molecular pins protection, the elbow is the same as the left one, but a chain is tied around the forearm, to secure it to the weapon, so it will never be lost in combat, even if it's knocked from the hand. This is a feature borrowed from the World Eaters, and I believe from Karn himself during their training. Then it has become a signature symbol of the Black Templars. The backpack is very beautiful. As I mentioned, it has interesting geometry and a lot of sharp angles. I especially like the way those metal exhausts are arranged in frieze at the bottom. There's a cross in the middle. The engines are unlike any other backpack, although I think Rolderon has something similar. The propeller blades are clearly visible inside, but this backpack doesn't provide stabilization, it only powers the armor. At the top is a ribbon with the word Terra, a tribute both to Sigismund's home planet and to his first mentor on the path of a valiant warrior. The backpack is raised very high above the armor compared to other armor generations, and between it and the head is a golden decoration, something like a halo, a status symbol like that of the Ultramarines, but very reminiscent of a ship's steering wheel in appearance. The champion's head is protected from below by an inner layer of the armor, up to the end of the neck. There's a green laurel wreath and the most fashionable Warhammer hairstyle. A pin on the forehead and excellent facing sculpting. Gorgeous ears, wrinkles on the forehead, drawn together eyebrows and brow ridges, sparkling blue eyes, a nose, folds of skin around and wrinkles under the eyes, thin lips, groove above them, a chin with wrinkles on the chin bones. This is an excellent elaboration of the face, definitely at the level of the Primarchs, if not better. Clearly one of the best JoyToy faces. The champion comes with only two interchangeable hands and no other accessories. These are clenched left fist and relaxed palm with the retracted fingers, which I immediately installed in the place of a pre-installed left foregrip. because it's a unique hand mold, which is rare for JoyToy, and it looks amazing. We'll talk about this separately in the posing analysis. I was unlucky enough to lose the pistol on my figure, but technically it's a weapon, though there's no hand option for a bolter to hold. The legendary hero's primary weapon is a black sword. It's apparently not a power weapon, which doesn't stop it from cutting through iron, stone, and of course any enemy like butter. It's a super weapon of unknown origin and incredible power, though it doesn't seem to incorporate any magical or Sinus technology. It is simply an impossible sword outside of the laws of Warhammer physics. This would have bothered me before, but after the Alfarius spear, Russ and Valdor's spear, the Emperor's sword, and Abaddon's space slicing sword, it is still a pretty modest weapon. The sword can be attached to the chain on his wrist with a small peg. On one side of the blade there's the inscription De Castigator, which is Latin for Punisher of the Gods. On the other side is the inscription Emperor Rex. Rex is supposedly Latin for a king. Articulation is typical for all the second and third generation Space Marines, but it is unusual due to the armor pattern, and in my particular case, a defect in the figure. Firstly, what really surprised me was large knee pads, which are very rubbery. It's a super soft rubber, softer than the tabards, cloaks and any robes. Secondly, the left leg of this guy was defective. It kept falling off, and for a long time I couldn't figure out what's wrong with it. By the way, during the repair process the pistol fell off. At first I thought it was a loose ball joint on the thigh, where the leg attached to the body, and I tried to cover the ball joint socket with the varnish, so that it became tighter and hold the leg more securely, but to my surprise this didn't help at all. In the end, when I completely disassembled the entire lower part of the body, took out both legs, removed the groin piece, got to the hinges themselves, which I really don't like to do, it turned out that the solution was not in narrowing, but on the contrary in expanding. The part had an undercast socket for the hinge and the thigh, so I had to scrape a few millimeters with a small knife, and to my great joy the leg snapped back into place, and stopped falling out with the slightest movement. As for articulation, the figure is an old body type, so the shoulder pads are on the rubber loops, and the backpack motors are fixed, so they can be rotated like on the Mark III. Sigismund also cannot move his torso or waist properly, because the tabard and armor straps hold those articulation points in place. So overall, to me personally, Sigismund articulation and joints are more of a disappointment than a good surprise. Which brings us to the posing, which due to all the above is in many ways a challenge rather than opportunity. Usually at this point I'd interrupt for a few words about the character's history, but in his case it would take so long that I'll simply state on the most important facts on his life in my opinion. Sigismund is from Terra. He was born there, not like many well-known top heroes and Space Marine captains from Primarch Wars like Invid. He is the first captain of the Imperial Feasts, meaning the most important in the Legion after Dorn. He would later become a chapter master and founder of the beloved Black Templars chapter, and I believe he even changed his armor, at least in color. Beyond that, Sigismund is a champion of the Imperial Feasts and the Emperor's champion, being the most skilled and invincible swordsman among the Space Marines, capable of holding on his own against the Primarchs, and he is even held against Fulgrim, the demonic one. It is quite curious that JoyToy has figures of Black Templars champions and marshals, but no Marshal Sigismund figure, so we can still hope for a reissue. And finally, this character story is already over. He died at a respectable age in the battle with Abaddon the Despoiler. The figure's posing is good, but not as good as I'd like, because Sigismund is a character who stands pompously in a static position, but in motion is cut short by his own tabard, both in the chest and the legs. I even have the question about the hands. But first of all about the unique and cool features, of which the left hand is the main one. The fingers are positioned in such a way that the straightened index finger can be used for pointing. This is cool and rare for JoyToy. Plus it allows you to create Obi-Wan's favorite fighting stance. It's even depicted on the box because it is the original miniature pose. And finally, I thought this was the original purpose of this hand, a grip on the sword blade. For example, in prayer or in oath, Sigismund regularly practiced this, so it's good that the kneeling stance isn't blocked by the tabard from behind or in front. The problem is any combat dynamics. I tried very hard to pose his blows beautifully, but for some reason I think he looks a little uncertain when swinging. Even piercing an enemy with a straight blow, for example, looks nice, but I don't know what to do with his hands at that moment. The second point is the sword. Even the wiki says it is a two-handed sword, but the butterfly joints on the shoulders do not allow for any fancy poses with the sword. Look, they both extended to their maximum length. I think a two-handed grip is possible with some effort, as the additional grip hand is there for it, but it wouldn't look super cool either, because that means that the hilt would have to be angled, the chain would bend and become taut, the pauldrons would hit the armor, and they're not using ball joints. And overall it will be awkward. It doesn't mean Sigismund is bad at posing, it's just that everything here seems to be based on the miniature, which point was clearly to show him as a pompous captain, not a turbo swordsman. But he can put his hand on his brother's shoulder. I like this variation. Since we are talking about brothers, let's look at comparison with other figures. There are a lot of them, so I'll try to do this quickly. Sister of Battle. A Mark III subordinate is almost a head shorter. A second generation Primaris. An Orc Commando. An old version Indomitus Terminator. Titus as a Mark IV generation Primaris. I don't even know if I need to compare figures from the deadline with less than 10 figures, but they still fit together quite well. Now a couple of other commanders of their chapters and legions. Dante, surprisingly, is a little shorter, since he is a Primaris, but he is a 40k figure. Ahriman is always a big guy. A first generation Terminator Cataphractii brother. A second generation Cataphractii friend. The larger Space Marine Cataphractii from JoyToy, and Sigismund main adversary. The Primarch of the Legion. First, I'd like to draw a conclusion from the comparison. Despite Sigismund's body type, the Imperial Fists after all are the first Heresy Legion. His figure is perfectly scaled and proportioned, in my opinion. He still looks really decent against both the old Heresy guys and all the new Heresy guys. He is larger than typical Space Marine, and can look great alongside both the Heresy and the 40k guys, regardless of their body type. This is his non-obvious but very important value. But in conclusion, it should be said that his value also lies in the fact that he wears the Mark II Crusade armor, making him even more unique case for JoyToy. Ultimately, he's a top-tier named hero, and a very popular one, so I can definitely recommend it to collectors. I'm not going to highlight my specific issues with the figure. The only issue is the limited articulation of the tabard areas, which extends to both torso and legs. I've even seen this fixed by disassembling the figure and replacing it with the custom fabric tabard. Also, I really like the figure's detailing, especially the detailed face. So to me the strengths of its unique features outweigh the weaknesses, and the figure is quite pleasing. I can't say it's particularly interesting, as the kit is modest and many people really miss the helmet. I also feel the same way, and I'll definitely get a custom one someday. That concludes the review. I tried to show and tell you everything you need to know about this figure and the character, and I hope it was interesting and I didn't waste your time. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.